Good morning, everybody. So my name's Laura Blundell, and this is my colleague,
Rachelle O'Brien.
and we're from the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. And we're here to talk to you today about a staff development session that we ran, and it's framed around digital storytelling.
Our story begins with a pair of educational developers called Laura, that's the blonde one, and Rachelle, that's me, the one with brown hair. Our task was to develop staff skills in the effective use of technology to enhance student learning. And we're just going to tell you the story today of how the journey starts for staff here in the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine.
Of course, the story doesn't quite begin there. A little bit of context for our audience. Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine was first established in 1898, and we were the first institution in the world dedicated to research and teaching in the field of tropical medicine. Now, I'm not going to run you through everything that we've done since 1898. If we fast forward to 2013, that's when we first became a HEI, and we maintain very strong links with the University of Liverpool. In 2017, we actually got our degree award in Powers, and that's kind of where our story starts really. That's allowed us to plan and expand our current educational portfolio, and we're aiming to have completed our current expansion plan by our 125th anniversary, which will be in 2023. Now, we're 2 years into our expansion plan, and in order for us to grow, there are some key targets that we need to work towards. It's not just a case of offering more courses and increasing our student numbers. There's a bit of work that we need to do to be able to achieve that. Outlined in our strategic goals, we identified that we need to be more aligned to market need. We need to be less reliant on face-to-face didactic teaching and teaching that's based in Liverpool. So at the moment we're very much restricted by what we do. We want to cater for a broader spectrum of students and also expand the portfolio of courses we offer, and we hope that the prior goals will result in that expansion. Now, as educational developers, we're mostly involved working with staff to design courses, and we're very much focusing on being less reliant on that face-to-face didactic teaching and being location specific. So this doesn't sound like anything new. Lots of HEIs are doing this at the moment, but just to give you some context, our current MSc students have a timetable that is Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 on site. Our courses are very hands-on and very time intensive, and it dramatically reduces the range of students that come to study with us, and we're really working hard to try and change that. So as an institution, we need to start the ball rolling really, to help what is fundamentally going to be a massive culture shift for our staff. And how do we do that? The first initiative that was launched was the LIGHT programme, and that's Leading in Global Health Teaching. And that's a CPD scheme that basically supports staff to go for HEA accreditation at all fellowship levels. Now, you'll notice I've put in a Lord of the Rings reference here for our New Zealand audience, just because fellowship reminds me of Lord of the Rings, so that's my geek coming out there. Part of that LIGHT programme is the CEDA Certificate in Supporting Learning, and that's a course that we've been running for a number of years now here at LSTM, but we are tying it into that accreditation scheme. And the course covers approaches to planning, delivering, assessing and evaluating teaching, and it's been externally recognised by the Staff and Educational Development Association, or CEDA. We welcome applications from any members of staff who are or will be involved in supporting learning at LSTM. So that's academic staff, research staff and professional services staff. And just to give you some idea of what that involves, staff attend 7 workshops. They undertake a micro-teaching session, which is assessed, and then they do a reflective piece at the end of the course, which they submit. And one of those sessions is run by ourselves, Rachelle and I. So as part of that CEDA Supporting Learning programme, we were asked to run a session that would focus on supporting learning using technology. And we were given some vague learning outcomes to us beforehand and aims, but really we were given free rein with what we could do with the students. So our strategy where we started was to focus on those CEDA values that underpin the course, and we tried to use those as a framework for our session. You can see these on the slide. We also knew that this was a great opportunity to showcase the learning technologies available to staff here at LSTM and also promote our team. So it's a good opportunity for us to get in contact with new members of staff that are new to teaching, that maybe don't know about the TEL unit, they don't know what an educational developer can do for them. So it is a promotion activity as much as it was a learning and teaching opportunity. So this is how we did it.
So as you can probably imagine, being given the task of explaining blended learning to a load of staff that probably don't know what we're talking about was quite a challenge. And when we were trying to come up with the best option to show what we meant and try and give them an example of what we do, how we do it, how amazing our team are, we thought, why not do this by giving them an experience of what we can actually do and make it a little bit fun. So before the session, we decided to see if we could understand where our staff's digital skills were at. So we got our participants to create a digital avatar using Bitmoji. Some of you may have heard of this. If not, check it out, it's great. And once they'd done that, we got them to post it to Twitter using our course hashtag. This allowed us to get an insight into their digital skills, which we were quite surprised was overwhelmingly positive. We sort of anticipated that 1 or 2 people might do it. We really didn't anticipate that the majority of people would get involved. But in doing this, we were also able to subtly introduce the value of Twitter as a learning community and also some blended practices and different digital pedagogies. On the day of our session, we were also able to use a new teaching space that's been specifically developed in light of LSTM's teaching expansion plans. You're probably thinking to yourself that we've just been talking about how we need to put more of our courses online, and this space is something that's physical, but this is actually allowing us to move staff towards where we'd like them to be, so able to deliver blended learning. The Active Learning Lab is designed to allow a move away from the traditional lecture theatre, and it has collaboration tables that mean students can easily share work with others as well as the tutor. We also have these computers that you can probably see on your screen right now where you can push them down, so you can treat it as a normal table and just have a conversation. This has been quite interesting for our lecturers who go into the room and try and lecture. The room is actually circular, so there isn't any one place where you can stand that allows you to see all of the students. This was intentional. It's intended to be active, and you can't be active if you're standing in one place. So working in this room was quite a challenge for us, and it impacted quite heavily on how we designed our session and the types of activities we could get participants to engage in. And we found that a really fun challenge because we were trying to figure out the best way to use computer positions and position ourselves in order to get the most out of our class. We found as well that it was really important for us to showcase how we could use this space effectively, because as Laura mentioned, this is essentially a promotional exercise as well. We want people to access our team, but we also want them to use space effectively. The first activity in the session was designed to get the participants talking. So we wanted them to discuss the type of technology they'd already used, either as teachers or as students, the technology they recognised, and technology they'd seen others using. We know from previous sessions that learning technology can be quite scary for some, and by starting the conversation early about what tools look like and how they work and how we use them, we were able to open up that conversation. We also opened up a backroom chat using Turning Point, where participants could submit any barriers or fears they had about introducing technology in their own teaching. This enabled us to really get an understanding of where people's fears lay, and it meant that we could do it in a way that it was anonymous and we could address it as well, which the participants really liked.
The next activity that we did once we'd got that initial conversation going was looking at the TPAC model. Now, for those of you that don't know or aren't familiar, TPAC is a technology integration framework, and it identifies 3 types of knowledge that instructors need to combine for successful educational technology integration. It looks at technological knowledge, pedagogical knowledge and content knowledge, and that's where that TPAC comes from. And we really like this model. We think it demonstrates really well how the 3 areas integrate. But rather than just standing up and presenting this as something that the students might find useful, something that they might want to read up on and look at for their later reflections, we wanted to get them to engage with it and really think about it. So what we did, we got their Bitmoji characters, which they'd submitted before the session began, and we asked them to pin themselves on the model and where they felt that they currently sat in terms of their knowledge base. So that was done digitally using the collaboration tables. And then we asked the students to reflect. So they looked at, has their pedagogical knowledge changed since beginning the CEDA course? Because they were quite a few weeks into it by the time we got to them. Where their current technological knowledge was, and could they see it changing by the end of this session or in the future? And then we also asked them to look ahead, so to think about how they could try and achieve that sweet spot, which is the point in the middle where the 3 knowledge areas combine, and how they might work to improve those areas that they felt that they weren't as strong on in the future. And we got some really positive and interesting discussions that came from that.
It was also quite nice to see that there was a range of different skills in the room, and this was a really good opportunity for us to encourage them to work together on future projects. Following on from the heavy blended pedagogical, space understanding, technology learning, we kind of thought we want to find a way to frame all of this that we've worked on so far into something that's fun and meaningful, and also into something that's long lasting. So we decided to make it into a digital storytelling activity, and we wanted the groups to work together. So this was something that we worked really hard to frame, because we were concerned that if we didn't build up to this activity in the right way, approaching it in the right frame of mind, we could end up with a room full of students just looking at each other and not really knowing where to start. It actually worked out that we managed to frame it really well, and we had a really collaborative group that were interested in discussing things with one another, and they actually took this on board really well. And as you'll probably see from these images, they both went for quite different images to start their story, which led them to quite different places. And it meant that once they were feeding back, we were really able to explore with them how they got to that point, the types of technology they were using, and how that had been effective in what they'd done.
The reason we chose digital storytelling to frame our session around was that we really wanted to focus not on the technology in the forefront, but in what the technology can enable. On your screen here are 4 key principles of storytelling, which are character, context, conflict and creation. And we managed to achieve all of these through some medium of educational technology. So our characters came from the Bitmoji characters that everyone created. The context was the totally new teaching space that was different from anything that a lot of the staff would have experienced. The conflict came from the TPAC activity, where there was quite a good discussion and not everybody agreed in terms of where they sat on their own knowledge and what they would need to do to improve or change that. And at the very end of the session, we had students that were creating digital stories using digital tools that the majority of them had never used before. Our main aim was to deliver a session that ultimately increased students' access to the tools available, it encouraged involvement and it supported change and development. And we knew that the majority of the people attending that session would not have experienced CPD in that way before. And we knew it was a risk, but ultimately it did pay off for us.
We understand that inevitably with doing any kind of CPD, we're going to be impacting on the way that staff actually access information and technology and whatever it is that they've experienced in the future. And in order to do this well, we wanted to make sure that we didn't just give them a fun session and they go away and they're quite happy because they've had a good 2 hours. We wanted to spark curiosity in them. We wanted them to start thinking about the change that's going to happen and start thinking about how they actually take control of that and how they work with change to make it work for them. And this is something that we're already seeing paying off, because some of the students that were part of that session are starting to use things like the Active Learning Lab in the way that you'd hope they'd use it. They're also starting to access different services that are offered within the university that relate to technology, which, to be honest, it's quite unusual for us. It's not something we see very often. So curiosity was something we hoped to come out with.
So ultimately, we wanted to help in starting our staff's journey and on embarking on change. We knew in 2 hours that we're not going to make any massive fundamental changes, but if we could have participants of our session going away ready to embark on change, not frightened to rewrite their own story in terms of technology, the way that they teach and the stuff that they're doing, that was our main goal. We know because of the way that LSTM is moving and our strategic plan that change is coming, but we wanted to arm our students to be able to take this change on and not be frightened of rewriting their own story. We hope this has been interesting and useful for you to listen to, and we now like to open up for any questions that anyone might have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.